Hello everyone! Today, we have a fascinating comparison to explore. We're going to compare two of the most iconic and powerful symbols of warfare from different eras. The heavily armored knight of the Middle Ages and the tank, the modern symbol of mechanized warfare. In the Middle Ages, knights were considered the most formidable force on the battlefield. Clad in steel armor and mounted on powerful war horses, their charge was a sight that inspired both fear and awe. The number of knights in an army was often a crucial factor in determining the outcome of battles. Centuries later, the development of the tank revolutionized modern warfare. With overwhelming firepower and resilient armor, tanks became the backbone of mechanized warfare. Since the 20th century, the number and quality of tanks have been key indicators of military power. So, what would happen if we compared these two powerful symbols of war across 10 distinct categories? Let's break it down and see who comes out on top. Part 1. Symbolic prestige. The medieval knight was not just a warrior.
He was a symbol of nobility and the pinnacle of social hierarchy. His armor, weapons, and horse all represented the technological and economic prowess of the time. Knights were revered figures embodying ideals of chivalry, honor, and martial excellence.
Therefore, the knight scores 5 points. Modern tanks also hold powerful symbolic value. The number of tanks a nation possesses reflects its military might, and tank parades are a showcase of national strength. As the embodiment of technological advancement, tanks remain a critical symbol of warfare. Therefore, the tank also scores 5 points. Part 2. Psychological impact on the battlefield. The sight of armored knights charging into battle was a terrifying spectacle for infantrymen. The thunderous sound of hooves, gleaming steel, and the sheer momentum of a charge could break enemy morale before any blows were even struck. Though vulnerable to well-prepared infantry formations, knights' presence alone often determined the outcome of battles. Considering this psychological effect, the knight scores 5 points. Tanks have a similar, if not greater, psychological impact. The roar of an engine, the sight of thick armor, and the devastating firepower can paralyze infantry forces with fear. Tanks have become synonymous with unstoppable force and armor dominance. Therefore, the tank scores 5 points. Part 3. Tactical role. Knights played a pivotal role in medieval warfare, serving as shock troops capable of breaching enemy lines and disrupting formations. They were also used for reconnaissance and as bodyguards for commanders. Their effectiveness often depended on timing and strategic deployment. For this vital role, the knight scores 5 points. Tanks, however, offer unmatched versatility. They can perform various roles, including assault, defense, fire support, and area control. Tanks excel in both offensive and defensive operations and can adapt to a wide range of tactical situations. Therefore, the tank scores 5 points. Part 4. Technological masterpiece. The knight's armor, weapons, and warhorse represented the peak of technological development during the Middle Ages. Custom-made plate armor was a marvel of craftsmanship, blending protection, mobility, and aesthetic sophistication. It was a symbol of personal and technological investment. For this impressive craftsmanship, the knight scores 4 points. Modern tanks, however, are technological wonders. They incorporate complex mechanical systems, advanced targeting technologies, composite armor, and sophisticated communication tools. As technological products, tanks far exceed the complexity and functionality of a knight's armor and weapons. Therefore, the tank scores 5 points. Part 5. Combat endurance. Knights relied heavily on the stamina of their horses and their own physical endurance. Long battles or prolonged campaigns often exhausted both men and mounts. Furthermore, logistical support was limited compared to modern standards. For these reasons, the knight scores 3 points. Tanks, while dependent on fuel and ammunition, can sustain combat operations much longer than knights. Modern supply chains and logistical support further enhance their endurance, although mechanical breakdowns remain a risk. Therefore, the tank scores 4 points. Part 6. Survivability defense. The knight's armor was highly effective against most contemporary weapons, providing excellent protection. However, it was still vulnerable to armor-piercing weapons or attacks targeting exposed areas such as joints. Therefore, the knight scores 4 points. Modern tanks are equipped with composite armor, explosive reactive armor ERA, and other advanced defensive technologies. Infantry weapons generally cannot penetrate tank armor, though specialized anti-tank weapons pose a threat. Therefore, the tank scores 5 points. Part 7. Training and maintenance costs. Training a knight was a lifelong process, starting from childhood. The costs associated with equipment, horses, and maintenance were immense and could only be afforded by the nobility. Therefore, the knight scores 3 points. Training tank crews is still expensive, but modern military systems allow for structured and efficient training processes. Maintenance costs are high, but they are systematically managed at the state level. Therefore, the tank scores 4 points. Part 8. Solo capability versus teamwork. An individual knight could significantly influence a battle's outcome through personal prowess. However, coordinated charges were far more effective, emphasizing the importance of teamwork. Therefore, the knight scores 4 points. Tanks are powerful individually, but reach their full potential when operating as part of a coordinated force, including infantry and air support. Therefore, the tank scores 5 points. Part 9. Mobility. Knights on horseback were highly mobile on flat terrain, but struggled with difficult terrain such as marshes, mountains, or dense forests. Therefore, the knight scores 3 points. Tanks are equipped with tracks that provide superior off-road capability. However, urban environments and mountainous terrain can still limit their mobility. Therefore, the tank scores 4 points. Part 10. Strategic significance. Knights were often the deciding factor in medieval battles, capable of turning the tide of combat with a well-timed charge. Therefore, the knight scores 4 points. Tanks are the backbone of modern armored warfare, serving as the spearhead in offensives and a critical component of defensive lines. Therefore, the tank scores 5 points. Total score comparison. The knight 41 points out of 50. The tank 47 points out of 50. Conclusion. The knight and the tank were each the pinnacle of military prowess in their respective eras. The knight once dominated the battlefield through personal valor, armor, and skill, while the tank now reigns, supreme with advanced technology and tactical versatility. However, as technology advanced, the efficiency and adaptability of the tank ultimately surpassed the knight's capabilities. Helicopters, fighter jets, and drones have now joined the ranks of powerful military assets, continuing the legacy of dominance and innovation. And as we look to the future, the battlefield will continue to evolve, with new icons emerging to redefine power and dominance. Thank you for joining me on this fascinating comparison. Stay tuned for more interesting battles between history's most powerful symbols. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more fascinating comparisons like this, make sure to like and subscribe.